The following is brought to you by PaulAkers.net.
Hello everyone, we're going on an epic journey. I am going to retrace the footsteps, birthplace, and hometown of my grandmother and grandfather from the island of Crete. Now, I've been to Greece several times, but this will be the first time that I've ever been to Crete, and it is a beautiful island, one of the biggest Greek islands of all. And my grandmother and grandfather lived in small little villages, and this is the village where my grandmother lived. And I'm on the road looking to find out if I can be the first one of all of our relatives to ever return to the place where they came from. Now remember, they came to New York in 1912. My grandfather came first, and a year later my grandmother came. And so I'm first attempting just to go to my grandmother's village, and I just pull into the village. And now you have to imagine, everything was dirt probably back then. They had no pavement whatsoever. And this is the village that my grandmother walked through every day. So could you imagine this? And no relatives have ever been back here to see this. And this is the first time. And I didn't know if I'd be able to find anyone. And I just kept wandering through the streets, very, very narrow. I had this tiny little car. I could barely fit down some of the alleys. And there was nobody anywhere. And so I was kind of a little bit flummoxed, thinking to myself, am I going to find anybody? And finally, after I kept zigzagging up and down all these little streets, and I finally found this one street, this is it, that was super small. I saw one lady pulling out down by an alley, way down low. And so I jumped out of my car and I ran down there and I said, do you know the Milisakis family? And I saw this Jeep here, which was pretty cool too. And she said, yes, I do. And she directed me to go to the Milisakis olive oil plant, where they actually make olive oil, because this was the business they were in. This is my little car. And here is the woman. It was just amazing. She was so animated, wanting to help me. And I couldn't find anybody in this entire village. And I found this one woman, and she helped me. She said, follow me. So I barely got down this alley. I met this other gentleman, and I asked him if he knew Milisakis. And he said, yes, I do know. I remember they went to New York, and then right then the woman who I was going to follow to the mill pulled up, and I followed her down to the olive oil plant. And it was just the most amazing thing to meet some of my distant relatives of the Milisakis family on my mother's side. So what a journey this was, just the craziest thing. And here she is. She says, follow me. And I'm like, no way. So these are the only two people basically that I saw in this entire village the whole time I was there. I did see one other man who was a Milisakis as well, who we talked about, but none of them actually remembered my grandmother, because it was so long ago. It was well over 100 years ago.
Yeah.
In a few
now
minutes.
comes here the Melisakis, John Melisakis from New York, New Jersey, lived many years, and now come back to Tsivaras.
Thank you.
All Melisakis of the world was from Tsivaras.
Wow. And they got this cool little showroom with all these different products they make out of olive oil. And of course it says Milisakis on it. This is just so amazing. I mean, I'm shocked. I did not expect to have this level of results. But this is how they make the olive oil. They put the olives in there, and they wash them and sort through them. And then they go into a grinder and they pulverize it all, and then they extract the olive oil from it to get the extra version. And I got to taste it. It was just so unbelievable. I've never dreamed I'd ever be tasting olive oil right as it's being made. And it was absolutely delicious. And then I wanted to get a bottle that was just being made, and they went over the giant, huge stainless steel containers that they stored in, and they got.
How old is this olive oil factory? You said 10 years old?
No, from 2010.
2010, okay.
So now it's around 12, 14 years over here in this particular place.
Right, but you say it goes generations after
Generations back, of course. As well, locate a little bit further down.
Okay, 100. How many years ago? How old is the olive oil business?
A long time.
Like what, 100 years old?
Hundreds, like 1930s, something like this.
1930s, wow.
Something like that.
Wow. Is the Milisakis family, are they wealthy people? Are they...
It's okay, that's not well. We're just all working.
You're all working, right.
Yes.
But you don't remember the Derek Sakis. You don't know the name Derek
no.
Sakis.
So here they're testing for acidity, and guess what?
Low acidity is better. Explain testing.
Yeah. The low acidity is the best quality. It's extra virgin olive oil. Extra virgin have acidity from 0.3 until 0.8, the top.
Okay.
Second quality is virgin olive oil. Have acidity 0.9 until 2. And the other quality, last quality is biomechanico. Lavande, 0 is from 2.1 until 5.
So the best
Acidity.
is extra virgin.
The best is extra virgin olive oil. Low acidity is better than high acidity. Take the olive oil without temperature, with cold press, with centrifugal system, and we take more vitamins. It's superfood, the extra virgin olive oil.
And this is extra.
Yes, it's extra virgin.
So then after the tour of the factory, Nikitaitis took me down the street and introduced me to another one of my relatives, and we sat in his living room and we talked for such a long time. It was just amazing. But he also did not remember my grandmother because it was just too long ago. But this is the view that my grandmother looked out over. This is all the Milasakis neighborhoods and all the family right
This
here.
building is
And
200
then
years old.
the
And
most
Milasakis
amazing
building.
thing happened. He took me around and showed me all the old Milasakis homes. And we went up and we actually saw the house probably where my grandmother lived, and it was just incredible.
Is this bathroom?
Yes.
Bathroom.
One room outside.
Outside. 200 years old and beautiful view. Wow.
You know, as I was looking at all this, I thought to myself, what courage it must have taken for my grandmother and grandfather
Milisaki's
to leave
here,
this
too.
little village and go to New York, the biggest city basically in the world, the most influential
Wow,
city in
old
the
and
world.
new.
They left this little
Yeah,
village,
old and new.
these houses that were over 200 years old. And the Milasakis family, turns out that they were making olive oil, and this is where they made the olive oil over 100
This is the
years ago
old
with
mill?
a donkey going
This is the
around and
mill.
around and grinding and pulverizing.
But
in
this
a
is the mill for the olive oil.
500-year-old Venetian building.
And this is the wheel.
Yes. Million stone.
That's the mill, the stone that goes on the olives.
Yes, and
And the donkey. And the donkey walks around here.
Turn around slowly, slowly.
Oh my gosh. No.
Another stone for the mill.
Where? And the big vase is for the olive oil.
This building is 500 years old from Venetian age.
Venetian.
Yes. Look.
Oh my God. What is this one for right here?
Yes.
You know?
This is for olive oil.
For olive
With
oil.
stone. Stone.
Wow. 500 years old. Oh my gosh. Unbelievable.
So he was so generous with his time, just walking me through the village and down pathways that nobody really had gone down probably for so many years, through the bushes, just showing me all the old Milasakis homes and the whole area where they all live. He's a Milasakis. And then he took me to the church where my grandmother went, which was just
Oh, here's
so
the
amazing.
Jeep.
And it
Look
turns
at the
out when I
Jeep.
went by the Jeep, that was
Look
in
at the
the
old
right
Jeep.
area. I was in the Milasakis family neighborhood. And look at this old Willie's Jeep. Isn't this just amazing? So then we go up over to the church, and we just see more and more old
1876
buildings, and he points out how old they are.
Yeah, this is where we start. That's right.
Yes. And look.
A
Stone.
real stone from
Olive
olive oil.
factory. And this one, and this building is olive oil factory from other family.
From another family. Contonitis family, another olive oil factory.
Yes. Olive factory and they have beside it.
Oh my God. Gosh, look at this. Oh my God. Amalia went to church here.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's, 150 years old.
150. Amalia? Amalia, we're ringing the bell for you. And Nicholas Deretsakis, we're ringing the bell for you.
So needless to say, everything that I'm seeing and experiencing is exceeding all my wildest expectations. To walk in the footsteps of my grandmother and my grandfather and to see all this, and it's just so wonderful to meet my relatives, and then to pick an orange, a Milasakis orange for the Milasakis family.
Okay, bye-bye.
Absolutely unbelievable. Everyone waves goodbye, and I'm off for my next journey, which is to go to the hometown of my grandfather, which was about 20 kilometers away. Now, on this trip, I was not as successful. I found the village, and it was such a beautiful drive, nestled up against the mountains and olive trees everywhere. But I only found one gentleman, and then I think his wife, but they didn't know anything about the Deretsakis family. So in this case, I was wildly successful with my grandmother, and I came up with nothing for my grandfather, but it was still beautiful to go to his original village. I passed a cemetery, I got out and I looked at all the different gravestones, but believe it or not, they were all much newer. The people were younger than my grandfather, so there wasn't any information I could get from the cemetery, but I drove through the village. It was a cool little village up on the side of a hill, very similar to my grandmother's, but in a different area, more nestled up against these big mountains. But it was a really cool area, but there was nobody anywhere. I drove back and forth. I couldn't find anything. And finally, on the way back out, I saw one man getting in his car. I rushed as fast as I could to stop him, but we didn't speak. He didn't speak much English, and I obviously didn't speak hardly any Greek. And so I was not successful in this one case, but at least I got to visit it, and I could imagine what my grandfather was like. Going through this village. This is his village. I went up on another hillside on the other side and looked back across and took these fabulous pictures. This is where my grandfather was raised. And these olive trees some of them are 2,000 years old. These things are so old, and they're still bearing fruit. And this is the man.
No
I met
Nicholas
who did not
Deretsakis,
know
no.
anything about my grandfather or the Deretsakis family,
No.
nor his wife
Yeah.
didn't either. But at least I tried.
2,000 years
This
old.
tree is 2,000-year-old olive tree, still producing olives, still being harvested in the olive oil farm. Just absolutely amazing. So I had a little bit of time left over, and I heard about this beach called Balos, which is supposed to be one of the most beautiful beaches in all the world. And so I did the hike. It took me a long time to get to it, over an hour and a half drive, and then I hiked down to the beach. There's hardly anybody anywhere, but it's just absolutely spectacular. It is way off in a remote part on the island of Crete, but I had to visit this because it was supposed to be such a special place, and indeed, it took my breath away. So there is my trip to Crete to visit the birthplace and home of my grandmother and grandfather, and it was so successful.
Hopefully you enjoyed the video. Remember, like and subscribe and pass this on to other people. Let's change the world together. And remember my app, 2 Second Lean Play. It's all free, and it has all my books in the audio version, as well as some other great authors. You're really going to enjoy it.
Brought to you by paulakers.net, where you'll find all Paul's books and lean resources for free, including the new 2 Second Lean Play app, like Audible, but free. To listen to Lean is Lean on the 2 Second Lean Play app at paulakers.net.